We don't have the recording secretary on, do we?
No, she is not going to be here. She's going to record, she's going to transcribe from the video.
Okay,
6 o'clock.
6
So
o'clock.
Is that
And we have a
Susan?
quorum.
Good evening. Good evening. This is the monthly PAC board meeting for MVMCC, and we welcome both the viewers on channel 26 as well as residents who are joining us on Zoom. Before we begin again, as usual, I'd like to introduce the other members of the panel, starting with our Vice President, John Hanson. John Hanson, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm John Hanson, the Vice President of the board and also Chair of the MVest Standing Committee.
Carol Joy Harris. Muted.
I don't know why I did that. I'm Carol Joy Harris. I am the Secretary of PAC, and the person who called us to order is Jay Shelfer, our illustrious president.
Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Ploger. I am the PAC treasurer and the chairman of the finance committee, and I'm a practicing CPA.
Again, I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening, and I'd like to call for approval of the final agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Any comments from the board? Okay, call for vote, approval of the final agenda. 4-0.
And joining us is Vicki Waddell, our at-large member, who should be here momentarily.
There she is. Hey, Vicki, you're muted. We're introducing you. We will soon have Vicki unmuted and joining us. But since we have a quorum, I'd like to go ahead and call for the approval of the final agenda.
Oh,
We have seconded.
we just did.
we just did that.
We did
It was-
close it. All right, great.
Yeah.
So public comment for any items not on the agenda. There's a 3-minute limit for any comments. Is there anyone who would like to comment on anything not on the agenda, board members or residents? I see Bill Davis, hand up. Please come ahead, Bill. Yes, Bill.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, barely.
Yes, no, can you hear me?
No, it's going in and out. We can't really hear you.
Okay, I'll do my best with this one. You know, we live in a country with the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of press, right on property, and most importantly, the rule of law. The rule of law, nobody's above it. And without
Bill,
it, we have essentially nothing.
we can't really hear you. Can
I
you?
want to, I cannot hear. I'm sorry. I have an audio problem. Can you hear now?
Yeah,
Not everything.
Yes or no?
It's better.
Try it again.
So,
you know, it's
Did you
probably
get it from the
your phone
beginning?
mic. If you're using the phone mic on your earpiece, maybe that's what the problem. Can you just use your telephone or whatever
Yeah.
you're using?
yeah, so the rule of law is essential, and nobody's above the law. Go forward with the law. It's critical to the management and organization of what we subscribe to as American citizens, and we should be very proud of it. I am. And what I'm focusing on right now is the rules and regulations in this part, which are very antiquated and have been overhauled. That's where our justice is. That's where our community is. That's where we're going to proceed and be successful in this area and environment. But the ones we have in place are antiquated. They've been reworked. They've been put forward to the city. And we had a city attorney who sat on them, use justice delayed is justice denied. Nobody will argue that one for you. Right now, we're getting the same runaround on these laws, not rules and regulations, not being properly processed through the attorney's rubber stamp to get them back here in place. I want and suggest that the PAC push this issue forward to the city. This is not a minor problem. This is something that needs to be taken care of, and it's way too far in arrears to justify where it is right now. So either, I don't know what you need to do as a PAC board, but as an individual, I'm pleading to you as a citizen of this community, please give me a basic right that I deserve as a citizen of the country and a member of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other one? Is there anyone else who has a public comment?
Yes, my hand is up. I guess you don't see that
No.
when I raise my hand. Okay, well, it's been up. Thank you. Yeah, I just wonder who takes the minutes because I guess Susan is no longer with us and they're not signed. Used to be in the old days, you said respectfully submitted or whatever, but I have no idea who's the recording secretary. Anyone?
I'll answer that. We have a new recording secretary. Her name is Jean Lee. And for the first couple of meetings, she is not able to attend the actual meeting and she's transcribing from the video. I helped her do these minutes. When we get to that, which is on the agenda, I will add that her name at the end. So
Sure, thank you. I had no
Yeah.
idea. No
right.
clue.
Okay, thank you.
I noticed Susan was gone. Thank you.
Again, further public comment.
And they're great minutes. I mean, they're extensive. Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward, the consent calendar. We have received the minutes from the February 1st PAC board meeting, and we've had a chance to review them. Are there any additions or corrections to that before we approve it?
I move to approve the minutes of the February 1st meeting as submitted.
I'll second that.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the residents?
I saw Anila go.
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Thank you, Vicky. We
sorry,
can't see
I
you, but we
can't
hear
bring,
you.
I can't bring the video up. So my camera's not working, but I'm here.
Okay,
We see you. I mean,
So
we see a black screen, so we're assuming
Oh, okay.
you're there.
so it's
Okay.
5-0.
Okay, the second item on the consent calendar is the approval of the March 1st, 2022 PAC board meeting.
Well,
Is there
I will make the motion to approve them, but then but when we go into discussion, I've got some corrections. So I move to approve the minutes of the March 1st meeting.
And I will second that.
Discussion.
Okay, I'll start. Two things. One is, now where are they? Okay, to have them signed by our recording secretary. So at the end, to add Jean Lee, recording secretary. And then and it's JEAN. And then the other addition is on page 7. Yes, under old business. It was when we were discussing the possible payoff of the bank loan on Marin Valley. Between the third and fourth paragraph, I would like to add this wording. It got left off and I didn't notice it, but Jan Thomas asked if this would reopen the question of park ownership. And Steve Ploker replied that there is no connection between the two subjects. That's it. So
Great.
that sentence needs to be added as a paragraph between paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 in under F, old business. Other than that, I have no corrections.
Okay, I'll call for approval of the minutes if there's no further discussion with the inclusive of that paragraph. All in
Thank you for catching that, Carol Joy.
Pardon me, Steve?
Thank you for catching that.
Yeah,
Actually, Jan Thomas caught it. She emailed me and said that didn't get in there. And I said, oh, sorry. So I said I would make that correction. So we're voting.
yeah.
Vicky?
Hands
Vicky?
up. My hand's up.
Okay.
Okay,
So it's 5-0.
we're going to move on to reports. I'll call on Matt Greenberg, our esteemed manager, for maintenance and capital projects, including water usage for the past month. Matt, you're muted, by the way.
Thank you. I'm going to start off with the water report. Our past and last water reading was March 18th. We've been on an average of 34,000 gallons per day of use. Last year, at this same time, we were at 39,000 gallons of use. There's approximately 5,000 gallons less per day. I attribute that to some of the repairs that we've made. And I think that we can get the use down moving forward. We've hired a location specialist to focus on several areas in the park, 3 in particular that are continuous water in the gutters or coming out of sump pumps. In the past, the train of thought had been that they were underground springs. I feel that they possibly could be fractures in the pipe or the pipe threads that are leaking. We've recently repaired 2, and I've recently found 1 more that's an actual leak that we have called for service from Marin H2O to get repaired. They haven't been out yet. But I think with the different water main, they're small fractures, but there's a lot of volume and pressure. And it's a continuous use. The charting of the water shows the different meters that are using more water than the other meters. And we look at them specifically between 1 and 5 in the morning. And those meters that are continually spinning, we feel have leaks, but they're difficult to find. So unless there's any questions in regards to water, that would be my report for tonight.
I have a comment, and that is that since this year's rainfall in Novato is over twice what it was last year by this time in the season, that the fact that we're doing that we are using that much less water speaks very well of the residents' diligence in watching their water usage.
I agree. The last few years, we've reached out to residents and tried to help reset their irrigation systems or just explain the use of micro irrigation comparatively to the hand watering or regular sprinkler heads. And a lot of people are on board and have been changing their systems. And I agree with you. I feel that it's they're doing a good job and helping to conserve the water use.
Oh, there's
Okay.
another question.
Ellen Jane has a question.
You're You're muted, Ellen Jane.
Sorry. Matt, I wondered if that refers to in front of 127 Marin Valley Drive, like I've been concerned about for many months.
That is one of the sites where there's water in the gutter continuously. It's coming from two locations there. One of them is a sump pump that was put in place about 10 years ago by Gelati Construction. And
Yeah.
the other is just emanating out from, some of it comes from actually under the street down on Clubview. We have a leak that a lot of residents are concerned about, but it's actually not coming up from a resident's yard, but it's coming from across the street and coming up from under the asphalt. So even the expert that comes in with the leak detection equipment is struggling to find where they're actually coming from.
Okay, and
some
then
of them
and then
may be
also,
groundwater.
sorry, and then
That's okay.
also, I can't find her address in front of Polly's house that's been running since I moved here 18 years ago. Is there anything, is that just considered
That's
a
the
spring?
same. She's at 115, 127 is right up the street.
Yeah, I
but
didn't
that-
want to, it's not.
That whole area there is, the hillside's really tall behind it. Some of it could be groundwater, but I have a sneaking suspicion that we have a broken pipe in there somewhere.
So do I. Thanks.
Other than that, we've had our quarterly sewer clean out
Wait, I'm sorry.
maintenance.
Excuse
Sure.
me. There was another question, I think, on the water.
Oh, okay,
No, I'm sorry.
okay. So we've had our quarterly sewer clean out, which we do regularly to remove roots and things that would stop up the sewer. We haven't run into any real problems. It's just regular maintenance. I've been getting bids for replacement for the pool panels, for upcoming tree service. I've been working with Siegel Utilities and getting bids, and I'm in contract for a lot of maintenance work coming up for the different transformers in the park and our switching station, the main 12,000 volt switching station in particular, that's in the very beginning of the park next to 199 Marin Valley Drive. We're going to have some heaters installed in different switching stations so that next winter the condensation won't cause the breakers to blow. But we're really in need of some deferred maintenance on all of the different transformers regarding new oil, regarding cooling equipment, new grounding rods, and regular cleaning that I don't think has ever been done. And we can't personally open up the high voltage side of these, but we had a specialist come in, and I went around to every transformer with him. And there's maintenance that's very deferred that needs to happen, and it needs to happen before the weather gets hot, before everybody's air conditioners are on, and potentially a brownout like we've had in Lucas Valley, where it triggers the park to temporarily go out of power by PG&E, and then when it comes back on, it's too much of a load for all the transformers. They heat up and they can cause failure. I'm on top of that, and that's going to happen soon. You'll see some trucks coming in the park soon, and we're going to have a scheduled shutdown or two that's going to be necessary to clean all the different transformers and do this type of work. We've been going over our insurance policy, and we've recommended some changes, which goes out to risk management at the city. It's not something that I can change, but I think that we're underinsured in some of the areas in the park if we had loss. Specifically, I sent you guys a bid today for the replacement of the spa, which is twice as much as what we're insured for currently for the replacement of the entire pool, spa, and equipment. So that, we have some old data that we've had a meeting recently, and we've gone over everything, updated our numbers, and then the city in Public Works is transferring that to risk management, their decision on what they want to do. It would create a more expensive insurance policy, but better protection. So they're going to weigh what their thoughts are and the best course of action they want to take.
Excuse me, Matt, would you repeat the what you had to say about the spa that you had sent us a bid?
I sent you a bid this afternoon. It's a little over 200,000 to remove and replace the spa and add the automatic cover that you guys have been questioning me about over the last 3 years to save gas costs. So that current bid reflects on the policy that I was able to show them, that it's probably a $600,000 loss if we were to have a catastrophic fire and lose just the pool, the spa, and the equipment for the pool and the spa. And we went through all the square footage of the buildings and the values that I feel that the buildings would cost to rebuild, and what those square foot values are now. They're radically different. So all that information and data is now in the hands of risk management, and that's their department to make those types of decisions. But it was a good meeting with Kate and Chris. And they're going to take it from here.
For the benefit of people who don't know, that's Kate One and Chris Blunk, who are in the Public Works Department, and they are our liaisons with the city.
As far as maintenance and capital work, we haven't done anything other than that. We're just preparing for the ability to use the new budget and the work that I plan on doing when that's available to me July 1st.
Is this the good time to mention the $3 million that just kind of fell into our lap?
Sure.
Along with Matt's work in applying for it, and the fact that the specs of the request for proposal happen to exactly fit our needs. So I think this is a good time to talk about that, Matt.
Sure. I didn't actually apply for that money, but it was money that was provided to the city, I think, with every other city in California, and I think it was part of the COVID-19 Relief Act.
Right.
But for Marin Valley, it was a perfect opportunity for the exact type of work that was permitted, that you could use that money for, and the exact timeline that type of work needed to happen. So with it just fell into place. It was honestly luck, because the planning for the work that's happened and the work moving forward that's going to start this spring on Pump Station 1 is, if they were to get that grant money now and decided to do that planning, it wouldn't fall into the timeline. So it was really just pure luck that money is able to fit exactly how they need, and it's a windfall for Marin Valley. It's a $3 million windfall that dedicates that federal money towards the 2 pump stations, full replacement with the best quality materials and workmanship at no cost to Marin Valley.
Right. I just wanted to acknowledge your working with Chris Blunk to get all the data together for him to apply for that grant as the city person to do it. But I know you worked with him. And for people who weren't here or hearing the history of that, it's the pump station number 2. We have 2 pump stations, and one of them, the work is already completed for a cost of around $1.5 million. The second one is out to bid right now. The bids are coming back in like a week, maybe 2 weeks. And that work's going to be done in the next few months for another $1.5 million. So that, and the timeline was perfect. So that $3 million just came to us. So it's a hallelujah, happy day.
Yeah, it was really good. Really good.
Thank you. So, I mean, further clarification, the federal funds were made available to the city of Nevada because the city of Nevada is holding the Title IV Marin Valley, they were able to use our project to reclaim some of that money that was made available to it. So the city manager and Chris Blanc proposed to us that it was available and would we be interested in getting those funds, which the PAC board agreed to. And they went ahead, and in order to fulfill the requirements, Matt had to pull up all of the invoices, all of the costs for the first pump station, and submit those to the city. And then the city, as they receive those billings, will be able to reimburse us to put back into our reserves. And that'll also happen for the next pump station, which the bids are coming back on April the 21st. And the work should start sometime this summer, as soon as they're able to get the materials and the workers in place. Go ahead, Matt.
Matt, will that happen differently, or will it be we pay and they reimburse us again?
No, I think it's they pay. The reimbursement for the first lift station was a reimbursement.
Yeah.
There's a
Anila
question.
raising her
Jay,
hand.
there's a question.
Sure.
There's a question. I don't see who's asking, but who is it?
Anila.
Anila, go ahead, Anila.
Two questions for Matt, please. One is, when are the risk assessment people going to get back to us? Do we have any notion? This year, next year?
Oh, no, that's imminent because the
Great.
expiration of the insurance policies soon. So it's typical to look at it a month or so prior, but they're going over it right now so that we meet
Right.
the current date.
Second is that you put up a chat, and I don't know whether our recording secretary can see the chats in response to Bill Davis's opinion. I was wondering whether you could talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that new rules are really important, but I also feel a little bit more strongly that the actual enforcement of our existing rules is more important than gathering and getting new rules in place. And I've put my comments to the city and what I think and what I need to better enforce the rules. And I'm eagerly awaiting their reply and decisions on my use of new legal counsel that I've proposed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt?
John?
Yeah, it's John. Do you have any update on that PG&E grant opportunity? I know we made it to the first stage, and is there any further word on that?
Yes, I've talked with PG&E twice in the last 3 weeks. My application that was submitted was approved. There's 2 tiers. We're in tier 2. The tiers reflect the quality of the infrastructure. There are many applications that PG&E has from many parks in the state of California. Tier 1 are parks that are really in desperate need of imminent replacement. They're in bad shape. Tier 2 are parks that are tired, but still operating properly, and the maintenance is being done subject to the CPUC and their inspections, which we're completing as we should. And what they say with tier 2, which is where Marin Valley is in, is that we're on a waiting list that won't start until after between 5 and 6 years from now.
Oh,
Part of the I've got the contact information to the person at the Public Utilities Commission who is the one that deems parks in either tier 1 or tier 2. And I've had one meeting with Siegel Utilities, and we're going to provide our report of the equipment that they're reviewing now to the utilities, to PG&E and the CPUC, and try to downgrade the park to a tier 1 so that we can get this financial help and planning help from PG&E sooner than 5 to 6 years, and get locked in so that we know that we can access this program and not wait. But what PG&E says is that they're tremendously overwhelmed with the amount of work in front of them and with the lack of quality contractors to do that sort of work because the jobs are huge. So it's kind of a work in progress, and I think that we are our best advocates for the condition of the utilities. And although we have inspections, I don't feel that the inspections are in depth enough for them to determine what tier that we're in, except as a visual and reporting that we have to do every year with our leak surveys and such. But I think it's, if we can get that financial help sooner than later, I'm always, I feel that, preventative maintenance and doing it before it breaks is the way to go, and not waiting until things are problematic, and they're getting there. Everything works well in the park, but it's outdated, needs to be replaced.
Matt, as part of that addendum to our application, along with the condition of the transformers and the electrical utilities, we do have those condition reports. Maybe we have to just redline the fact that so many of the so much of the infrastructure is beyond the age where it would normally need to be replaced. And is PG&E cognizant or knowledgeable about that, or is it, they have the full report and it's obvious to them?
They're very knowledgeable, but they don't make the decisions. The California Public Utilities Commission makes the decision. So they authorize PG&E to do work in different parks, and it's a complicated process. They're problems that are structurally very difficult problems, and I think very difficult for PG&E to choose which parks they're going to move with first, and they're really struggling with manpower that's quality manpower and the type of contractors that can do this sort of work. At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, so
I believe what they're saying.
Yeah, but it goes from PG&E to the PUC to make the decision, or
the opposite. It goes from the PUC to PG&E.
Okay, so the report of our infrastructure has been sent to PG&E, but they forwarded on to the PUC to make those decisions?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So it's great that you are establishing a relationship so that they know, I'm not going to say squeaky wheel, but they know that we really need this and want this, and you're on it.
Well, there's been real conversations. It's not a nagging squeaky wheel. It's information that's real information that comes from licensed utility contractors, not just me talking, but also me explaining to them the condition and the types of pedestals and infrastructure and the types of transformers that are still in the park. And the age of this equipment is 40, 45 years old. They know, they deal with it regularly. And although it works properly, it's, it's past its time for replacement.
Okay.
Matt, when you say they work with it and they know about it, I mean, obviously we've been responsible for maintaining the equipment, and we've been hiring people to come in and do the work. So have we been supplying them with the, our bills and assessments based on the contractual work that we've gotten already for the electrical work?
No, they don't want that, and they won't accept it. What they look at is the yearly leak survey reports But they are going to look at the report that's done by Siegel Utilities coming up because of the
Good.
size of that company and because of the fact that Siegel has contacts in PG&E that they're lobbying with on our behalf.
Anila has a question.
Would it make
No,
any,
let's stick with the board first. Is there any other questions from the board? Okay, and Neela, did you have a comment?
is this a situation where we should simply go ahead and do the work ourselves and then get reimbursed by them? Are they even up for that?
It's too big of a project.
Okay.
It's it would take a minimum of 2 years to plan the project if the city dedicated several engineers towards it. And then it would take you know, between 10 and 12 million in financing. And a lot, it's a lot. You know, the rules have changed. The location of a lot of our transformers and switching stations isn't applicable for replacement and putting in the same place. You know, it's a huge, detailed, they're difficult problems to solve.
Thank you. Ellen Jane.
Yeah, I'm recalling when, I don't recall the name of the person who was working with maybe Public Works in Novato, and he moved to Larkspur or Corte Madera or something. And he gave a big presentation about 5 years ago about
Probably
how,
Julian Skinner.
thank you, yes. And how things are trenched together, like gas and sewer and electric, and how they run under our homes. So I haven't ever built a bridge, so it's just unbelievable to me, like how they can fix any of that. But
Well, they'd
just
abandon it. It'll be abandoned and left
yeah.
in the ground, and then new joint trench will be put in the ground with new utilities, new communication utilities, gas and electric.
in the street.
And it'll be put in the street, and the laterals that go from these main lines will go up each driveway into new pedestals and connect into the resident homes.
So they will no longer be going under the houses.
No longer.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So they'll
Jessica?
be there, but they'll be dead.
What
Jessica,
did you
did you have a
say?
comment?
What,
Jessica?
Stephen?
Okay.
Stephen,
you-
what did you say?
I just commented, they'll still be there, but they'll be dead.
You're right.
There'll be a lot of lateral drilling. A lot of the work Comcast does regularly. It's not very invasive. You can go underneath driveways and pop up right where the pedestal locations are. They pull pipe, and a lot of it's really technically new. I used a lateral drilling machine when we replaced the water line on Meadowview in between 20 and 24 Meadowview. Didn't disrupt any driveways or any resident homes, but we were able to come up at each resident home with a new hookup for water line because the existing pipes were corroded and beginning to get so plugged that the volume of water was just unreasonable for residents to take showers. So that's similar to what will happen. A lot of it is the driveways won't even be impacted at all.
So this is 5 years, 6 years, 10 years?
If we go on that schedule.
Well, if they say 5, 6 years, I'd say it's probably more if we stay in tier 2.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. I'm Vicky. Further to what Anila was asking, is it possible to do any of this work in piecemeal?
I think that a job of this nature needs to be completely planned out, and then it would be done in phases. We're regularly, every year, I'm having pedestals replaced that are substandard. You know, most of the entire park is energized by Zinsco, which is the brand name of pedestal. They're not made anymore. The company doesn't exist anymore. We have parts to rebuild them all. But the new ones that are installed are so good and so tough and so they're just great. I mean, the technology comparatively to, you know, when these were installed in the 1970s is night and day. So when things are not working properly, I lean more towards a replacement than a repair if we can't easily rebuild the insides with a bus bar kit.
Thanks.
Bus bar kit.
So as far as
Adam, do you have
maintenance and
anything else?
capital, unless there's any other questions, I don't have anything else in my report unless you wanted me to talk about the 17 line items in the budget that I want to increase.
We'll
Well,
get down.
we're going to do that when we talk about the budget later on.
Okay.
Okay, no further comments from the board or from residents? So let's move on to Steve's report on the PAC.
Okay, our PAC petty cash account is still at $2,725. I don't think we've spent anything for 6 months. I'm reminding you that this is just a petty cash account that the PAC board can use when expenses arise and we need something quickly and it's inconvenient to contact Matt. Ordinarily, Matt covers all our expenses and charges them to our PAC budget account in the general fund. That amount annually is $4,000, and to date we have used 2,224 of that. The finance report. Here I'm generally talking about the DSCR calculation. And a quick comment, there is talk, and we'll do this later in the agenda, of potentially paying off our loan. If that happens, this whole discussion disappears, but we're still with it for the moment. For the end of February, which is the latest that we have results for, our DSCR was at 1.91. But once again, that's because we front-loaded the categories of brush removal and tree pruning. So as the months go by, that gets modulated, so that by the end of our fiscal year, we'll probably be easily over 2.0, since we have March, April, May, June, 4 more months to make up for that. So I'm not worried, and Matt always brings us in on budget. That's the report.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions from the board? Residents? Hearing none, we'll move on to our report on the 2x2 meeting. Carol Joy and myself attended it along with Matt. Just as to begin with, since it's been mentioned already, the new rules and regulations are moving slowly forward, and we are constantly questioning the ability and the time needed to complete this, and we're pushing to get it done as quickly as possible. And Matt very adroitly pointed out the number of issues that needs to be addressed by legal individuals, so to speak, and need to be approved through the city. And he had requested in that meeting that he'd be able to use lawyers that are associated with mobile home parks to speed up the process, and that is under active consideration. So it's not, this is a problem that's existed for many, many, many years, and we are pushing ahead with all deliberate speed, and hopefully it will be resolved as soon as possible. But working with the city and these things take time. Charles Joy, do you have any other things you want to talk about that we've discussed?
No, actually, most of what we discussed is sort of long-term planning, including the kinds of things that we've already discussed here tonight, the infrastructure, that sort of thing. And most important to me, actually, is rules and regulations, which you just talked about. So yeah, there are a couple of avenues. One is to use another legal firm besides the one that is contracted to be the city attorney for the city of Novato. The other one is the other avenue is to work with that agency a little bit differently. But in any case, we do keep pushing. Yeah, we're pushing as much as we can. So. Yeah,
and again, just for those who are not familiar with it, these 2x2 meetings are set up to allow the PAC and the city to have frank discussions without too much oversight. In other words, we can speak our mind and throw things around and develop new approaches to old problems and just to discuss future problems. So it's a good way that we have an opportunity to speak with the owner of the property and try to get our needs in front of them and to get them to move forward on what we need to accomplish. I mean, they own 70 buildings in Novato, and they have, tens of thousands of residents who they have to address all the time with their issues. So it's an opportunity for us to put forward our ideas and to justify our budget requests and our capital improvement needs. And it has been progressively getting better and better. So we have a good rapport with the city, and we're working forward on our issues through that. So having said that, is there any questions?
Did you discuss their billing procedures for when they provide services to MVMCC?
oh, yes, we did. I'm not sure I heard your complete question. Did we discuss their billing procedures? Yes.
Yeah, like they go forever and then they bill us a whole bunch. And
No. They're giving us reports. Well, they had a lot of catch up to do, and now they're doing it on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve, for your information, we are getting literally reports on the amount of hours individuals are spending in the administration of MVMCC and the resulting fees that are imposed.
Right. So it'll say so and so, and then their title and what they spent, how many hours they spent on each project for that month, and then the total, and then the next person and the next person. Okay. So we're getting quite detailed reports. Yeah.
And the city also has a finance person who has been tasked with developing this information, and they've been sitting in on these 2x2 meetings.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board? Anil, I see your hand.
I just want to thank you both. It's been 10 years that we've been trying to get any kind of coherent billing from the city. You guys managed.
Well, yeah, thank you. But it's not just us. I will say Kate One is a very good administrator, and she is the what is her exact title? The Public Works Administrative Manager. She's right below Chris Blunk, and she's a very good administrative manager. And also, there's been this huge turnover. So every time we were getting somewhere, then that person would go away within the finance department, et cetera. And now I think they're kind of settling in. So that helps. But thank you. Thanks for that.
Okay. So moving on to project planning, John Hanson and myself. We've been talking with Matt about getting the solar panels for keeping the pool heated, and Matt has been very diligent in getting some bids, and I think that's going to move forward. Is that correct, Matt?
That's one of the line items I've asked for an increased amount of money. But I think we also have the roof replacement that is in the budget currently. We've got 350,000. I think it needs to happen concurrently. That's going to involve replacing some of the air conditioning and condensers on the roof. So it's a lot more than just putting panels up there, unless you guys want to put them up and then remove and replace them pretty soon. But I suggest that we move forward with the roof and the panels, as well as getting some solar panels on the roof that are photoelectric solar panels for utility use, as well as heating the pool.
So Matt, we've discussed this, and just to put it on the table, right now there's right now I believe it's 26% rebate for the cost of redoing the roof and putting solar panels on the roof. And we don't really know how this is going to change going forward. So if we can replace the roof or get that project going so that we can enjoy that rebate from the city and federal government, and also provide for solar so that we could make the clubhouse a mini grid, so that we would be able to supply electricity and energy to the clubhouse. And on top of that, instead of just replacing the air conditioning systems that we have, installing heat pumps as we have in the ballroom around, so we can control individual areas of the park with air conditioning and heating, rather than generally heating large areas that aren't necessarily used during the day or the night. And on top of that, if we can use heat pumps, that means that we can use electricity. And if we have that mini grid set up with batteries, which would be in part supported by the rebate, we would be able to be completely free energy wise in the clubhouse. So therefore, we would, along with the gas generator we now have a safe place for all residents in the event of any kind of emergency and going forward. Having said that, I know you're aware of all this, and I just want to reiterate it that I think it's a good idea, and if there are any other board comments or residents' comments, it would be a good time to hear them.
Oh, I just want to clarify. This is on the budget for fiscal year 22-23, right?
Correct. It's we've got 350,000 on line item number 9, which is dedicated for clubhouse roof and HVAC replacement. The solar can get in there as well. I've talked already with Shorebreak Energy and Siegel Utilities to get us some costs. At the same time in the budget, some of the ADA work will coincide with that as well.
Oh,
But that's all. Those aren't items that need to be approved. They're already in the budget and can be spent starting in July. So I'm ready to do it if you guys are.
Absolutely.
right. We don't need to give you any direction on that. It's already in progress, correct?
Well, the tiers for spending on the roof tiers are over my spending parameters.
Oh,
So that would be something that the city is going to need to do, but I can get all the costs and get everything set up so they can choose which contractor they want and say go. I think that it would be good for the project planning committee to look at the type of roofing materials so that we can do fire preventative type roof and possibly even metal. So there's some discussions that need to happen, within the next several months before July, so that we can get the right kind of information together to provide to the city, and get the best use and the best use of the money.
okay. Actually, the thrust of my question was, we need to have it agendized if it's going to be something that we need to vote on to give you direction. So, so as the project planning committee is meeting John and Jay. If it's something that we need to vote on as PAC, then just make sure that it gets on the agenda. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
John, do you have anything, or is it going to come up in the MVIS?
Yeah, the rest is in Invest.
Okay, because I mean, we still need to talk about the goats and brush clearing and whatever. Okay, any further questions from the board or from residents? Okay, so let's move on to Invest. John Hanson.
Okay, the Invest report for March was a busy month, and we're going to be a lot busier going forward. We've got a lot of things going on. Right now, the energy of the day is really going to the park security issue. There's been a number of petty thefts in the park recently, and MVS has been scratching their head of what can we do about this without putting any of our residents into harm's way. And what we come up with is vigilance in some form. So exactly how that's going to work going forward without stepping on anybody's toes, residents, or causing any additional harm in the park or inconvenience with people, and still increase our vigilance. We're still working on that. The other thing is that Matt has arranged for a representative from the Nevada Police Department to come in this Thursday. And we highly recommend that all citizens attend that meeting in the clubhouse. It's going to be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so, yeah, come and it will be very organized because we're expecting a large attendance. So come and prepare for it to be organized. But there's going to be a lot of good information shared by the police, and we're looking forward to that. The next item here is Fire Safe Marin. There's a meeting this Friday morning at 9 o'clock for the Fire Safe Marin Board of Directors, and at 11 o'clock for the Firewise leaders of Marin. And we encourage residents and our Firewise committee and our MVES committee and MVES members to attend that meeting. It's on Zoom. The login is on our website. Irma Wheatley keeps the homepage up with all of the new events for MVEST as well as the rest of the park. So you can go there to find out exactly how to log on to the meetings Friday morning. Otherwise, with Fire Safe Marin, Marin Valley is in the queue for a PG&E grant to Fire Safe Marin. They've left it to Fire Safe Marin to select the where the money goes. So we're in the queue for $10,000 as soon as PG&E releases the funding. So we don't know for certain how much of that we'll get. Hopefully we'll get it all. Generally, PG&E does release the entire amount. So we'll be that money will be going toward doing some specific wildfire mitigation work along our evacuation access route on Marin Valley Drive. Let's see. Right now, MVEST is building a partnership with the Marin Center for Independent Living, and they are. This is especially for our most senior residents. Those of us who have slowed down over the years, and for some of our residents that are more challenged, especially with mobility. And the main thing I think really with it, with this organization, MCIL, I will call it, is that they do promote, and they are really their main thing is helping citizens to be independent living, which is, as we get older, that's what we need here in the park. The other thing they do is they provide They have a program called Powered and Prepared, where they provide resources for people that need them for emergency backup power and many other resources. But coming this, when is it? The end of April 30th at 9:45. That's on a Saturday. There will be another public meeting sponsored by MVest, where MCIL will come and explain their program to residents and how we can queue into that. So I encourage all of the people that have the hardest trouble getting up the clubhouse, of the people that need to be there, and anybody else with the interest too. And then I hope that everyone has been following the MVest articles in the March and April Echo, and in the coming Echo edition in May. It's on emergency evacuation. We spread it out over 3 months so that we can get all of the information that you need to in bite-sized chunks. Otherwise, it's way too much to handle all at once. But it's building a go bag is the first month. The second month is how do you get informed when there is going to be an evacuation? And we went into some details there that you probably won't find those altogether anyplace else. And then this coming month is covering the probably the most important part that is overlooked, and that is how do you get from receiving an alert or a warning or an order to actually evacuate. How do you get from there into your car, and what all of that means? And it's a lot more involved than what people generally think it is. So I beg you to read that article when it comes out. And then on June 4, then we'll have an evacuation exercise that we're calling a dress rehearsal, that we're promoting everybody to wear the clothes that you would wear for a wildfire emergency evacuation. And all of that information we have promoted over the years. We've reviewed it in our articles. You can also find it on the evacuation checklist on the front counter in the clubhouse. So that will be then June 4. Put it on your calendar for the park-wide emergency evacuation. When we actually do that, we'd like you to do that dress rehearsal. How do you get everything together into your car, out of your driveway? And then we're just going to go down to the turnaround, the other side of the hill, and come back. And when you come back, then we'll have a pizza party for all of the participants. So anyway, it'll be a fun day, very enlightening, I think, for everybody. And we strongly encourage everybody to participate. Now, we meet every Monday at 5 p.m. and we encourage residents to participate or at least watch our meetings. And if you wish to participate or be involved in those meetings at all, please let me know. Just email me. That's johnhansen.emt@gmail.com. It's also in the Echo where you can find my email. Email me and I'll be sure that you get an invitation to attend the meetings or virtual meetings on Zoom. So you don't have to wear a mask.
Thank you, John.
You bet.
Any comments from the board? Residents? Okay, let's move on to John Felden, a report from HOL. You're muted, John, by the way. There you go.
I really don't have anything to report. We're having a meeting tomorrow. I'd really appreciate everybody to come. It's going to be in the fireside room. And there's several things happening. There's Bill Hartwell is going to be playing, and David Gray has got a presentation coming right up this weekend. And of course, there's the police meeting Thursday. That's about it.
So that meeting is at 6 p.m. at the clubhouse?
The HOL meeting is at 6 p.m. in the fireside room, yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board or residents? Mary?
Mary.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mary Curry. I'm not sure what committee or entity would be the one to approach for this, but and there's only a lounge chair at the pool right now, one where you can lie down, and we need to get a couple more of those, if at all possible, because there's several of us that like to lounge at the pool. So I don't know if that's an HOL thing or a,
It
you know,
is
I don't know who we would approach for that.
It is an HOL thing, and they are being purchased as we speak.
Thank you,
There's going to
John.
be some more umbrellas. There's going to be some more tables. There, as you might have noticed, there are many, many chairs there.
Yeah, the chairs are
But
great, thank
we're
you.
having, and there's picnic tables there, but we're getting new umbrellas and new small tables, round tables, and I think 3 new lounges.
Great, thank you so much.
And we get
These are
resident.
important issues.
Can we get hotel quality rather than backyard quality? Because they tend to break the latter. You know, they get a lot of use.
That's
A lot of
true,
different
Steve.
people sitting on them without much respect for the equipment. And that's why the more expensive ones, they cost more, but that's because they last. They're built stronger.
We have to address that to our wonderful manager, who's actually going to find the funds to pay for this. So it's up
Just
to
a
him.
comment.
Matt, you want to weigh in that?
Oh, I'm all for it. I'd much prefer to buy high quality chairs and furniture for the residents than anything that would break. So maybe we can get together and just choose some, and we can order what you need.
I will do that with you in the coming days. I must just tell you the last ones were bought at Rite Aid, and that's why they are no longer with us.
Ah,
Yeah, we've got a
Chairs
line
are
item
great.
for that. No, we've got a $20,000 line item for amenities in the park, such as that. It's not all for that, but we can afford to buy good quality chairs and cushions for the residents so they're comfortable for sure.
Fantastic. I'm sure we can get some nice lounges for.
I'd be happy to volunteer to do some research on that, if you'd
That'd
like.
be great. That'll be great.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
report.
I can only order the accounts that we have are with HD Supply, and they're ridiculously expensive for ordinary stuff. If anybody has an account at, Costco or something, I can go and purchase them and then I can reimburse myself. But yeah, let's get some nice furniture so there's a nice summer out there by the pool.
Hey, thank you, John.
And thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Carolyn Curry, do you have a report from Marvell for us?
Oh, hi, it's Vicky.
Vicky.
Kathleen, that's right. Kathleen has the following to say. On Saturday, April 23rd, they will host the Mad Hatters Party, at which guests are encouraged to wear their most spectacular or outrageous hats. At the same event, they will mark the 20th anniversary of establishment of the bar in the clubhouse. This year's celebration of Cinco de Mayo is scheduled for Friday, May 6th, and will include a Mexican meal at pub. That's it.
Thank you, Vic. Any comments from the board or yes, John? John Hanson?
Well, I'll let's see, if there's no other comments for Marvell, I do have another comment for PAC. There's something that we left off the agenda, which I would like to have a comment on it. But it's not a big deal, so I don't know why we can't do it. But get a report on the election committee, what's happening with the election, PAC election.
Good question. Glad you asked. I've been waiting to hear from the existing board members who will be up for election, should they choose to run, if they are going to run. And I just heard today from the last one, all three of you will be running again. So that's good knowledge to have as we approach the nominations process. I have gotten in contact with the standing election committee, so people are ready. But we still have a ways to go before we approach those moments. Election nominations open sometime in the middle of May. Okay.
Oh, really? I thought that we installed the new or incumbent people at the annual meeting, which is the
Early June.
early June. Yeah, the first Saturday in
Yeah,
June.
it all happens. It all happens in a period of 3 weeks.
Oh, I didn't know.
Nominations only last for a week,
Oh,
and then the ballots go out. They vote. Then when is the annual meeting this year?
that would be, let me look at that. The first Saturday in June is June
June
Um,
4th.
3rd. No, I'm sorry, June 4th.
Yeah.
Oops. That
The
is,
evacuation.
that's the date of our,
That's the evacuation day.
of the evacuation day. Yeah. Well, we can change, the PAC board can change the date of that meeting. I mean,
Or the time.
we can do that.
I hope.
But we don't need to do that at this meeting. We could do that at the May meeting, our next meeting. So I'll put that in the agenda to possibly change the date of the annual meeting,
Or the time.
Or the time.
date and or time of the annual meeting.
Leon.
Okay,
I think it would be harder to change the actual date. I think the time would be a lot easier because I think the date is actually in our charter. So you
it is.
have a little difficulty in changing that.
It's in our bylaws. Okay, all right. So,
Yeah, we just do it that afternoon after the evacuation.
Yeah.
right, okay. Possibly change time of annual meeting, June, what did I say, 4th? Okay, and then the election committee, so that would be next month, that would be report election committee after Marvell. Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
by then I'll have a manager signed up,
okay,
a committee chairman rather,
okay,
and all the members on board in case we have an election. We
Okay.
may not.
okay.
Who knows? Yeah.
Okay, let's move forward. Old business, to discuss the possible approval of the city of Novato's paying off the remaining bank loan for Marin Valley Mobile Country Club. I think I'd like to start off with a review of what was said today. And what was said today was Matt is very unsure, as we all are, as to when the infrastructure for the park can be replaced, and that what will be happening over a period of years will be the repair of the existing infrastructure in order to keep it up for reasonable standards. So it's very difficult to estimate how much that may cost or entail. And I think we have to take that in consideration in paying out $3 million to retire the debt, which it sounds like a great idea. But on the other hand, the infrastructure, which it could, according to what Matt just told us, it could be $8, $9, $10 million. And to reduce the reserves down, I'm not sure whether that's a feasible plan to do, but certainly that's just an opinion to begin with. So anyone else have any feedback as to how we should proceed on this? Carol Joy?
Yeah, I have two things, two kind of big things. One is, we don't get to decide what, all we can do is recommend to the city, say, here's what the PAC board would like to do. Here's how we feel about this. The city decides, they're the owner. So that's number one. So when it says approve, what we would be doing is actually recommending that the city of Novato pay off the remaining bank loan. Okay, so that's my first comment. My second one is paying off the bank loan and leaving the property unencumbered has nothing to do with, number one, park ownership, as was stated last meeting. And number two, I don't think it really has to do with the infrastructure, like you were just talking about, Jay, because say we had to pay for the whole thing on our own and say it's $12 million. Well, we don't have anywhere near $12 million in reserves, nor will we for quite some time. So as Matt alluded to, we would have to get a loan. So either way, you have to get a loan, whether we have $6 million in reserves or $3 million in reserves. It's, the infrastructure thing is way more than that. So I don't see the connection there.
Well said.
Steve?
When it comes to paying off mortgages, that's kind of the argument. How much liquidity we need for upcoming demands and what kind of benefits we'll get by not having the debt burden for a while. Now, if we do indeed get that money from the city, we'll end up with about 6 million in our reserves again. So if we pay off the loan, we'll have about 3 million.
Right.
That's not bad going forward without any debt to pay. I have a study that I've done of our accrual of
The debt service?
how much reserves we build up every year. Over an average over 13 years, it's close to 900,000 per year that we have added to the reserves. Some years less, some years more. Now we're going to add to that 600,000 that we're not servicing debt. So we're talking $1.5 million per year, potentially adding to the reserves, give and take some projects here and there that sap some of the money. But that builds up pretty fast. After 4 years, that's $6 million. So we will have some good reserves, even if we have to engage the infrastructure project in the next 3 to 5 years, and we'll have to take out debt for the balance of it. I agree with Carol Joy. There's no way around that. We're not going to have enough cash to pay for it all, but I think it'd be great to go without the burden of the mortgage for probably 3 to 8 years, depending on when we have to borrow again. That's my opinion. And but in the world of finance, this is an opinion topic. It's what people are comfortable with. It involves risk and comfort. How much money in the bank feels good? What about how comfortable we are with borrowing money in the upcoming years? And everybody has a different feeling about these things. So my
John Hanson. John, do you have opinion?
Well, I agree with Steve totally on this, and that, yeah, it gets down to, I think, a personal opinion, because, we win both directions, no matter what we do, and then we lose both ways, no matter what we do. So then it gets down to just a comfort choice. And my opinion, my comfort level is to pay off the loan.
Vicky, do you have a comment? Vicky?
Oh, I'm sorry. My opinion is to wait a couple of years, build up the what Steve was talking about, the 1.5 a year, just for a little while until we reach everybody's consensus for comfort level.
No, he was saying that we would build up the 1.5 if we paid down the loan. If you don't pay down the loan, you accrue 900 a year.
Oh,
Correct.
okay. All right. I misunderstood. Thanks for that explanation.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with Steve as well. The point is that we need Matt perhaps to weigh in about how much he would need in the event. The dangerous thing is to run into a project where you have to come up with a bunch of money, millions of dollars to do something. Like we actually don't know the condition of the infrastructure underneath, because again, it's just been projections. And if we suddenly need to borrow money, being under the gun, so to speak, creates a problem in terms of being able to actually start the project and fund it. And again, like we've been saying, we're saying we, but it's actually the city. Now the city is going to be the one negotiating the loan for MVMCC, and it's going to be the city who eventually is going to listen to our recommendations as to how much reserve we should have in order to deal with immediate problems that are coming up. So, for example, we're budgeting out our capital improvement plans for 5 or 6 years. I think we have to really look at what we're going to be spending on the capital improvements and how much reserves we actually have, and whether that's going to fund it without putting us or putting the city in danger of having to negotiate a loan under the gun, so to speak. I mean, I can argue on both sides of it. I like the idea, as Steve points out, of paying it off and start accumulating 1.5, but we're going to need that to pay for capital improvements, and we're going to need that to fund PG&E's program, which we don't even know what our costs would be to do that. So, I think we're going to look at the budget later on today, and I think for me, I would like to say, let's look at the budget and our costs going forward and get Matt's recommendations, and then just table it for another month, and then decide whether we want to ask the city to use those funds to pay off the loan, which would be a great idea, but whether we have enough capital on hand to fulfill our needs going forward.
I'd like to make two suggestions. One is to hear from Matt, and another is to suggest that maybe if there's a risk assessment department or person, as Matt was mentioning earlier, maybe that is under their purview at the city to decide what is the amount of reserves that is appropriate for the park, because and also Matt, as we know, has experience with other parks and would have a good idea about that. So
Sure. I think that at a minimum, you need $4 million in reserves for emergencies. And I also think that you need to have adequate insurance, including insurance for legal. Generally, municipalities, first out-of-pocket money for all legal is $100,000 per case. I think that I would rather see the loan being paid off. I'd rather see some money being put into the park now for maintenance, and partnering up with PG&E and using funds that we have in reserves, and then borrowing against the property as a mortgage instead of as a construction loan. It'll be a lot less money. But I think that if the program can be accessed and we can partner up with PG&E to do the work, that's the best route, because they're going to absorb most of the costs. And although costs will be a burden on the park, it will be nothing compared to doing it yourself. That would be my feeling moving forward.
So what I'm hearing is you're saying that you're agreeing with Jay that maybe we should table this for a month or two and see what happens with the other situation?
I think the city is going to pay off that loan no matter what you do. So I think you need to work beside the city and not fight them on it. But I also think that it's important because of the amount of money that, and the project, you know, right now, maybe between 10, 12, $15 million, but in 5 years, it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think that keeping that in mind every year when you go through the budget, and like Steve was mentioning, the amount of money that can be put into reserves moving forward. I think you just plan on how you want to finance it. And if you use your own money, it's going to be a lot less borrowing against the park than the construction financing, which is quite expensive.
Anybody else from the board? John Feld.
I would like to ask Steve, is it cheaper to pay the mortgage or to borrow new money? I imagine that our mortgage is at a higher rate than we would be borrowing now. Is that correct?
Well, the cost, what is the cost of liquidity? You know, what is the cost of keeping our money in the bank? Well, the cost would be paying for the loan. And so you reach a level of what's tolerable, you know, how much we're not at that moment yet. And it's not going to be us that makes that decision.
But money costs a certain amount.
Exactly, sure.
And
if it were our decision, we would be weighing the cost of money versus how important is it to have a lot of liquidity. So it's always a balancing act. And it's, like I said, it's a personal preference thing. And in this case, it's going to be what the city decides is comfortable for them.
But is the cost of a loan higher now than what we're already paying?
Yes.
I'm not aware of the markets right now.
Yes, the Federal Reserve is pushing up the interest rates, and probably over the next year and a half, it will go up. So we had a very good interest rate because it was city owned and because it was well managed, and we got an interest rate of, it's a little bit more than 3%, 3+% now. Going forward next year, I don't think we'll be able to borrow money at that level, but that's just a thought, because, you know, inflation went up 7.5% this year. The Fed is trying to cool things down, and the way they cool things down is by raising interest rates and tightening the money supply, which they're doing right now. So the interest rates are going to go up. So 3.5% interest rates now on that debt is going to be higher. But then, as Steve points out, we're going to be getting a lot more money flowing into reserves if we pay it off, and will certainly be a more attractive a loan candidate if we have a good balance sheet without debt to borrow more money, and especially since we're going to be borrowing it more than likely from the Bank of Marin. So that question, a good one, John and Irma, is perhaps best asked to the Bank of Marin of what their current interest rates are and what they would project loaning us money, you know, in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years when we may actually need it.
And they won't give you an answer, you know that.
No,
because
it's going to be all over the map.
no banker, no, Jay, is going to say, well, let me tell you what's going to happen in 5 years. Nobody. So our job here is to say whether or not we as a PAC board recommend the city or agree with the city paying off the loan. So I'd like to make a motion to recommend our approval. I don't know how to put it. Maybe someone else should make the motion. I move that the PAC board
Recommend.
agree with the city of Novato's if they decide to pay off the loan. Is it, no,
Don
that
Hanson?
wasn't good.
I would just,
I
yeah, I would
withdraw
say
that
that we
motion.
that the PAC board either recommends to pay out the loan or does not recommend to pay out the loan. I
Okay,
don't
so
think
go
it's
ahead.
dependent, yeah, in our motion, doesn't depend on where the city is.
Well, okay, so, but we don't approve paying off the loan.
No, we approve we recommend.
Okay,
To the
so,
city.
okay, so I withdraw my other motion. My motion is to recommend that the city of Novato pay off the bank loan.
Yeah.
The remaining bank loan.
I have a question.
I will second that first of all.
It's not time for a second. It's time for a
No.
second.
Discussion.
Wait,
Yes, thank
did
you.
somebody second it?
Hold it. Let's talk about,
No,
well,
no,
just wait a
no.
sec,
It's
Bill.
time for the
Oh, just-
public to weigh in.
John seconded it.
yeah, but let's talk to the board first, Bill, and then you'll have your chance, okay? Nikki, do you have a comment?
I have a question. What is causing us to have to make a decision about how we feel what the city might do or not do at this moment? What's the advantage to us?
They want our opinion.
Oh, they've already asked for our opinion?
Yes.
Thank you. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Well, just as a caveat is we haven't received back the money for the 1.5 yet. And
Yeah, so this is just-
the work for the second pump station will probably take a year or so. So if we reduce to pay off the loan now, we'll be around 3 or less in reserves.
So they just asked, this was in the 2x2, they asked if we would, it's sort of like polling of the board. They just want to hear that we either like the idea or that we don't like the idea. So I made the motion, yes, we like the idea, and we'll see where we go with it.
Bill Davis.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, number one, the time value of money is very important. $100 today and next year is going to be worth less, maybe $95. And 3 years down the road, it might be a lot less. So there's an element to be looked at. Number two, what's our interest rate? Is it a good interest rate? It's one that you want to sustain, that you can reinvest this money and maybe make more than that interest rate or not? I think that's an equation that needs to be worked out by the city or an accountant. We need to look at that or support that data or not. And third, if you need money further down the road, number three is, why unnecessarily pay interest when you can have money available to do something else, either the city or you, and not have to pay to borrow the money to do whatever the project is. And finally, if you do need money, Bank of Marin's always there ready to help out, back up. We've got a long, Class A credit rating, or they can float a bond like most cities do if it's a big project. So I strongly recommend you support paying off the loan going forward. Everybody's, to own the property free and clear feels good.
Don Hanson.
Yeah, I would just like to add that, the costs will be greater every year, no matter what. It's either through higher interest or if raising the interest rates doesn't work, it's going to be a higher inflation rate. So no matter what we do, the cost of money is going to increase. And as we pay off our loan right now, the question of the value of the lower interest rate on the residual of our loan becomes less and less of an issue. Even right now, I would say that a differential interest rate between what we're paying right now and what we might pay in the future is pretty negligible. 3.5 right now, so it's 4.5 later on. That's only 0.5 to 1% differential. So I don't see where it's you know, especially as time goes on, we're at the point where the value of maintaining our loan and paying off the interest and so forth every year. I don't see a value in that, quite frankly, at this point. So I agree with the motion to pay the interest, pay the loan off as our recommendation.
Okay. Any other comments?
I call for a vote.
Okay, let's call for a vote. All those in favor of recommending to the city the paying off of the existing loan out of reserves, are we going to amend the motion pending the receipt of the 3 million from the,
No,
no, just making a motion to pay off the loan
to
Out of
recommend
reserves.
to the city of Novato that they pay off the remaining bank loan on Marin Valley Mobile Country Club.
out of reserves?
Wow. Yeah,
Call
okay.
for vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
It's 5.
Vicky, I don't see your hand, so you got to tell
Said
me.
yes,
I said yes.
Okay, so 5-0.
5-0. Yeah.
So Cal Joy, can I ask you to pass that on to Kate?
I will.
Okay, let's move forward. New business. To review discuss and possibly approve the budget for fiscal year 2022-23. See addendum to the agenda. And Matt, I'd ask you to comment on the changes that were made in the budget from this year to the proposed next year.
Okay. I actually need to turn a light on. It got kind of dark in here.
So generally, this budget that we're looking at is for the maintenance of the park, not for capital improvements. So Matt has a lot of experience in what has been expensed out over last year's budget and what future needs are. And as a result, he's added to various items.
Well,
So that's what we're asking Matt to look at.
There are 3 different items in the capital side of the budget. In the overlay side, generally this year was skipped over for overlay. And there was a $10,000 amount, which I've increased to $35,000.
What item is that, Matt?
That's item number 1, an overlay.
Does everybody know what he
asphalt
means
work.
by overlay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
I
street
got
and
it.
asphalt work. Slopes, drains, V ditches have generally been for the last 10 years, 25,000. I've increased it to 40 because there's just numerous homes that residents get out and they're ankle deep in water. We can only do a few each year. Costs of labor, insurance, and including workman's comp has gone up quite a bit. So it costs more to get the same type of work done. And I've been struggling the last few years to complete several different projects that residents need because the line items are just too small. The retaining wall line item, I've increased 50,000 for the same reasons. Those are the 3 items in the capital side of the budget.
So it went from 25 to 75
No,
for retaining walls?
retaining walls went from 75 to 125.
Oh, okay, I got it.
So I can either give you the totals or what the increased amount that I'm asking for is. The fire abatement was increased last year to 125. I'm asking for another 25,000 in increased work. Even though that we have the grant funding right now for the goats, and we had a little bit of hand crews on site for a few weeks pulling Scotch broom. There's a lot more that needs to be cut back. I have a meeting coming up next week with a really big tree service that I'm going to be getting some preliminary costs for doing a lot of the pickup work in the park out to 300 feet, which is down material that's dry. A lot of the trees that have not been able to be addressed, I want to raise all the canopies to 15 feet. Landscape maintenance is going up. There's more that needs to be done. I asked for an extra 4,000. That's just general once a week work. Staff home repairs, I've asked for an extra $4,000. We've got some problems that are creating conditions for substandard living in one of the homes that I need to have fixed. Operating supplies and equipment have typically been around 7,000. I'm asking for an additional $8,000. Those are for general operations that have to do, it's just the day-to-day running of the park. Pool supplies and equipment existing is about 14,000. I want to bump it up to 40, which will include the installation of the new panels to heat the pool or help heat the pool this summer, and higher costs for maintenance that we're receiving. General repair item has been, I increased it last year to 55. I'm asking to increase it an extra 30,000 to 85 because we just have just a myriad of things that break on a continual basis. Our security contract, I've already increased patrols. I'm going to increase them more. We have a $9,000. I'm bumping it 3,000 to 12,000 to get extra patrols every night. We had 2 patrols. I have 3 right now. I'd like to bump it up to 4. So during this time when there's some petty theft, I think that we need more security throughout the park in the wee hours of the morning. Electrical line item, it's 14,000. I'm asking for an extra 135,000. I'm in contract already for 50,000 in maintenance. And there's a lot more. If any of these transformers are no good, they're going to need to be replaced now. We can access them without going through that problem when we had the brownout. We had 2 transformers fail. We had to order them from out of state. I can get them directly through PG&E now if we're ready to get them. We have 1 extra that we purchased in case of an emergency, but I'm thinking that already several of them are going to need to be replaced before they break.
Will we do that proactively or wait for them to break?
No, I want to replace them. That's what's going on right now. You're going to see a park shutdown of utilities several times moving forward in the next 6 weeks. And those shutdowns are going to determine which of the transformers are problematic, and I'm going to have them replaced if this budget is approved prior to them breaking. I don't want the residents to go without air conditioning in the summer for even a day.
Right.
Matt, how many are there total?
9.
And 2, you said you've already replaced 2 of them?
Yeah, we had a brownout in Lucas Valley 2 years ago, and on Club View, 2 of the transformers failed when the park was powered up because it wasn't powered up 1 transformer at a time, and at the time it was hot, so there was a lot of people that had a load on their electrical system by using air conditioning, and so when the park was powered up, it was too much for the system to handle at once.
Matt, how much did it cost us to supply, a generator for that month? In other words, the emergency costs for that brownout.
The total cost for that problem was over $100,000. And
Wow.
I'd say at least more than a third of it was the rental of temporary power. But it, it's horrible. The lift stations, the generators that are substandard there, even though that they work, people are having to smell the diesel fumes while they're on it. It's just not okay. All that stuff has been replaced on Clubview as far as the standby generator for the lift stations, and the one for lift station number 1 is also coming up for replacement. But those type of things that are, when the manufacturers say they're 15 to 18 years past the time that they're supposed to be replaced and they're still in use, that's just not, I don't think that's okay.
No.
I think they need to, I think this money that we're getting right now, some stuff needs to happen around the park and utilize these funds.
Matt, you have a question on that. Are those voltage rectified to 308 or as it updated to 440?
They're 208.
208, yeah, 208, yeah.
They're 208. They're old. That as they get replaced, they have to be replaced with the same type.
Yeah.
But when the entire system is replaced, it'll change.
Then it'll go to 240 then.
Correct.
Yeah.
The sewer maintenance line item, I'm increasing $32,000 because it's a constant, and I know where there's some problems in the park and they're going to be expensive if we have to trench and replace. Water lines, we've had it $700. I'm putting that up to $20,000. There needs to be money there that I can use today. Utility maintenance, which is unanticipated, replacement of meters, which we've been having a problem with. The line item right now says $3,100. I'm bumping that up to $7,500. We get, regularly residents will disagree with their bill for one reason or another. And at the resident request, if I can't explain it to them, I'll pull the meter, I'll send it to Weights and Measures and get it calibrated and get a report to determine from a third party whether it's operating properly or not, to provide to the resident so they feel secure that we're doing our job the way that we're supposed to. And I also have a contingency line item that's existing $8,000 that I've bumped up to $12,000. And that's just for unanticipated overages that happen. I'd rather have the money in the budget and not use it than go over budget.
Mm-hmm.
Office supplies, I'm asking for an extra $500. This is generally ink for the printers in the library and such. Outside services, we have an increase from 10 to 30,000. We have our line items for our Comcast service that we use for the camera monitoring, which I want to install more of it throughout the park. That's the stuff that we have right now. That's the old Costco system that I purchased 5-6 years ago. Works well, but it's not anything in comparison to the Bay alarm system that we have by the RV storage that monitors with the license plate readers, better storage, better access to quality reporting that I can provide to the police department. I want to include a new system around the clubhouse. So I'm adding 30,000 because we lease the systems. I feel it's better in case of any kind of emergency. We don't have to insure that stuff when there's problems. Like there has been today, I had Bay alarm out. It's a no cost when you're leasing their equipment. When the equipment goes out of date, I call them up and get new equipment. They replace it for free with updated equipment. So the telephone line item right now is 20,000. I'm asking for it to bump up to 40. There's 17 different line items in the budget that I've increased.
So what is the total increase
Um,
over last year? Because I heard a lot of big numbers there.
Yeah,
That's about $1 billion.
Yeah.
you've still got bank interest in there, and we may not have that.
Yeah,
Well, but for right now. Just a ballpark.
we're looking at about 275,000.
Okay, so 275,000 over what it was last year.
Correct.
Okay, and then how would that $200,000 pool spa thing figure into this?
Well, and if the PAC board wants to save gas usage based on the concerns of several residents and spend 220,000 to replace the spa, then you'd need to vote on that and tell me to do it. And I would increase that line item another $225,000 and look for permission from the city, and then they would have to take that over because it's above my spending purvey in the delegation agreement.
So
Matt,
that's
go
a
ahead.
whole other thing. I think we need to, and that wasn't on the agenda. So we'll have to talk about that next month.
Yeah, and I've sent that to Chris Blanc as well as Kate Wan to review.
Matt, talking about the the budget, last year's budget, 2021, how much you didn't spend and how much went back into reserves? In other words, you budgeted funds. Did any money go back into reserves, or were you over?
We're over budget right now.
Have
And
an
what I'm
estimate?
trying to do is adjust this budget, because the way that the budget works, the availability to spend money starts in July. There's a lot of demand for work, a lot of work that needs to be done. And it seems to be me trying to catch up each year because there's more work than funds that are in the budget. So right now, specifically on trees, fire abatement, retaining wall, I think that we're probably 40, 50,000 over budget. At least.
Already.
Oh, yeah. This is from work that was done prior to the submitted request for this new budget.
Right.
I mean, what I'm looking at, Matt, is, the fact that we're 40 over from last year and we're increasing it 275. So that's 300,000.
Well, hold on. Because you're over budget on one line item doesn't mean you're over budget on the entire column. Okay.
Right.
So the fire district is recommending, they've gone from 30 feet to 50 feet to 100 feet to 300 feet. And I agree with them.
yeah.
I'd like to see a 300-foot cutback going up all of these hills. I'd like to see all of the downed wood, dead oak limbs, and everything that's been left and not dealt with on these hills dealt with this year. It's just too hot and too dry. And it's the responsibility of a park owner to pay for this stuff, and it needs to happen.
No, I'm not arguing at that at all. What I'm trying to look at is, we're recommending paying off the bank loan, and we're looking at all these increased expenses. And I'm not objecting. I'm just saying that we have to look forward, that the aging infrastructure and the costs being put on top of our spending right now because of the problems with the drought and the aging infrastructure, we're going to need money going forward, much more in future budgets to cover these expenses. But again, as is pointed out from Steve, we'll be saving that $600,000 that we're putting in debt service when we pay it off. So there'll be funds around, but we can just see going forward that our costs of maintaining this place are going up.
Right. And I just want to add, When the PAC board members got the report of, got the budget, the draft budget from the Helsing Group, the cover memo started with a couple of assumptions, several assumptions. The first being no rent increase in January 2023. So I just want to point out to everybody that, you know, here we are, we're just paying this much rent and we haven't had a rent increase in what, 3 years? So
5 years.
okay, several years. So we're staying here, but everything is going up. The cost of everything is going up and we're not paying for that. So I mean, we, as an
Well,
individual with your rent, okay, your utility costs might have gone up, but rent has not gone up. So I just want to remind everybody of that.
That's a good point. If this was a privately held park, even though that you're protected by the Nevada city mobile home rent control ordinance, you would have a rent increase every year from now and forever.
Absolutely.
And it's not that much money, but it's you know, it's fiscally irresponsible not to raise the rent with these kind of costs that are incurred. But on the other hand, when you look at the savings that can be had by this influx of $3 million, Jay's position that there's a 26% savings with the solar. I mean, there's ways that kind of balance this out, but I've always felt that when there's a big influx of money, especially that $3 million, now's the time to ask for extra money and do this sort of work.
Right, which has been deferred for, some of it has been deferred for decades, let's face it.
The reason there's so much money in reserves is when I was hired, there was no work being done. There was zero
Right.
deferred maintenance being done. There were holes in the clubhouse building. I don't know if you remember all the rotten
Yeah.
beams. You know, there's a lot of real problems in the park that have been addressed and fixed. But this is the responsibility of a park owner to pay for these sort of things. And
Right.
it has to happen, and not next year, this year.
Yeah, great. Well,
Can I ask
would
a
like-
question?
Oh, sorry.
Steve, is there, would it be appropriate to ask if you could do an analysis of what we've been talking about? You know, the pros and cons of increasing, approving what Matt is recommending?
I
Is it
just saw the
something?
budget. I just saw the budget for the first time this evening. So
Okay.
I'm just hearing this as Matt is going through it. I'm
Yeah.
not in any position to, I do not have any superior vantage point than Matt on this topic. He's very well versed in this
Oh,
kind of.
I'm not questioning Matt. It's just, it's a lot to absorb right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of-
We could do this or we could do that. And if we don't do this, maybe we
Yeah.
have to do this. And, it's just seeing it on paper might be a little easier.
No, we have the money, and I personally defer to Matt. I agree with just about everything he's saying. Yes, it's going to cost some money. Do we have the money? Yes. Will that mean we won't have it in the future? Not totally, because we're going to be putting more money in the reserves, remember? And we aren't going to be
Yeah.
paying money on a loan. And so there are compensating factors that will alleviate the loss of some of this money we're going to spend.
And just tailing off on that comment, if we increase the rent by the amount permitted, then the increase would amount to approximately $35,000 if it was the maximum of the CPI. So we're talking, not a great deal of money if the rents were increased as far as the CPI is concerned. But it does place a burden on a lot of the senior citizens who do not have much of an income coming in. And looking at the fact that our reserves are still being increased, even though we're spending that money, but the money that Matt's proposing to spend is money well spent, because it is money that will protect the park and will anticipate failures that would cost a hell of a lot more money to repair and replace in the event of a breakdown of the systems. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just want to say very briefly that it's in about 30 seconds, we're going to lose our coverage on Comcast.
Oh, I want to make a motion that we approve the budget as submitted by Helsing Group. Is
I
there a
second it. Any discussion from the board? Any questions from the residents?
One last comment. Fixing all these things is going to give us a slightly better life here at the park.
Maybe more than
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 5.
5-0. Thank you, Comcast.
Thanks for pushing that, Carol Joy.
Well, tick, 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 tick,
Took
right?
a long time. Good job, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, so next item, determine the next PAC board meeting, Tuesday, May the 3rd at 6 p.m. Is everybody going to be here or are you going to be in Africa, Carol Joy?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're not going to be in Europe? I thought you were going to Europe.
Not on May 3rd.
Okay, good. John?
This is the next public PAC board meeting.
Yes. Right.
Great. May
Okay.
3rd, 6 p.m. Any problems? No problems?
No problem.
Very good. Call for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Hip, hip. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.